Welcome to Mind Over Matter. I'm your host, Margaret Boyne. She's daring, dynamic, deliberate. She's a communication consultant, self management strategist, emotional intelligence coach, public speaker, mentor, CEO, author, politician, TV host, and mother. She's a founder and lead mentor for the Teens on Purpose mentorship program, where she serves teens through online coaching and in person mentorship. In other words, she does everything. My guest is KRYSTAL Tomlinson. Join us as she shares her journey of success. Hi, KRYSTAL. Welcome to Mind
Hi,
Over
Margaret.
Matter.
How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure having you.
I'm always excited to be interviewed
Right.
because it allows me to share
Mhm.
whatever little I have learned so far that might help to accelerate somebody else's journey. So I'm open to sharing across all those areas that you've mentioned in the introduction.
I know my viewers and listeners would like to know how are you doing?
I'm doing well. One of the things I have maintained since taking on public life, the cloak of public life carries with it, a lot of weighty expectations. But before I put that on in the morning, I am very deliberate about centering myself on my principles, my values, the vision that I believe is inspired by God and His divine direction. Just staying true to that, to allow every decision I make, every yes I give, every no,
Mhm.
every I will not, and every I will do to be underpinned by that. So by the time I put on that cloak of expectation, I'm already clothed internally
Mhm.
so that I can wear and bear that um, throughout the day and not break. But if ever I feel as though, there's a breaking point coming, I may just disappear altogether and then nobody can find me. But for now, I feel sufficiently strengthened and clear
Mhm.
on what is for me and what isn't, and just boldly taking those decisions regardless of everybody else's view on it.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. The three D's. You describe yourself as being daring, dynamic, and deliberate. Tell us why.
Yes, daring because I am a risk taker. So there are many things that I've done in my life, and people around me go, "Well, I could never do that. You're never afraid." I've not met the moment yet that because of fear, I won't
Mhm.
step into it. Again, I get up every morning with clarity on what life requires of me, what I'm willing to learn, even while I'm uncertain about stepping in a particular direction, and understanding that even in failure, there is lesson, and even
Mhm.
in the valley, I can be doing my planting and my learning and my nurturing of self and of others. And so I am daring to those who look at me because when I'm doing it, it doesn't feel like any big risk.
Right.
It just feels like another decision that God will take me through it.
Mhm.
But many people interpret it as something scary and just like, well, why would you do that? Aren't you afraid? Um, Dynamic because of the layers of my personality,
Mhm.
interests, skill set, and the fields that I pursue. So from politics to personal development and mentorship, business, the arts, media and communication. And I remind myself of that multi-layered personality so that I never get trapped in a box, so that nobody ever says to me, well, how you entering pageant and still want to be in politics? That's your box. You may not be able to see yourself doing several things and enjoying them and being good at them.
Mhm.
But I see myself as being able to do that. And so I'll never be stuck behind the line saying, well, no, somebody like me doesn't cross this line.
Mhm.
Somebody like me doesn't do that. Somebody like me doesn't do the other thing. I am dynamic, and that gives me permission to explore, to choose, and of course to unchoose.
Mhm.
The things that no longer interest me, suit me, or feed my purpose. And deliberate because I think about the decisions I take,
Mhm.
the implications they will have on me,
Mhm.
my path, my relationship with my creator, my relationship with friends and family, and then choosing, even as I understand myself to be daring and dynamic, choosing purposefully what to participate in and what not to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is how I develop a sense of comfort and confidence. Even when I take decisions that people don't understand and don't immediately agree with, I know that it's done from a space of deliberate thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and linking that also to my purpose. If it doesn't feel like, this is aligned to me spiritually and in the gut, the solar plexus, I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with people not understanding it because it's my purpose and not theirs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're multifaceted. You wear so many hats and you have achieved so much and yet so young. Were you always an overachiever?
Not at all. Not
What?
at all. When I was in high school, I was like the biggest underachiever. My teachers could
Really?
like, girl, you have so much talent. You could not do so much things. Why you waste your time? And I'm like, because I'm done wasting my time. I was not an overachiever. In fact, I attended 4 different high schools because I was such an underachiever.
4?
When I did GSAT at the time, I started at Merle Grove High School, and by second form, the disciplinary, I can't remember the right, I would say dean of discipline, but I'm sure that's not the right.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Called in my mom and said, listen, you have to move your daughter from this school because we see that she could go somewhere in life, that she could actually be smarty, right? But she going with the wrong people, skipping classes, not performing in terms of her exams and all those things. And we don't want to kick her, which is in Jamaica.
Yeah. Expel. Yeah.
And once you have been expelled from a school, you can't get accepted into any good school after that. So it's the bad schools. And when we talk about bad schools, it's those where the average, what you call GPA is very low. Students are maybe FD students in their grades. And you can't get accepted in any of the schools where people are averaging A's and B's in their examinations and so on. So they didn't want to kick me and then damn me to a life of, no access to good resources. And I think that also speaks to the work we have left to do in our public education system, where you can actually have a public school that's for poor performing students. They don't get all the resources. They're not located in places that stimulate learning and development. They don't get what would be considered the high performing teachers. The sports program is not as good. The arts and after class programs aren't as good. That we could have those in Jamaica even now. It's the work that we have left to do. But yes, teachers did not want to see me end up at one of those schools because I got expelled. So they asked my mother to transfer me.
Okay.
And she transferred me to Alpha Academy. My mom thought, well, this is going to get her in line because these are nuns
right
at this academy who are serious, right? So we're going to put a little Jesus inside of her right now. And I was only at Alpha for 1 year.
1 year.
And I think that's a consequence of the location of the school too, because it's in downtown.
Right.
And so after school, my mom would give me the money to be able to take a taxi from what's the name of that road? South Camp Road.
Yeah.
Take a taxi to go to Halfway Tree. In fact, the taxi would take you to Crossroads, and then you have to take something from Crossroads to Halfway Tree. So I could take the JUTC bus from Halfway Tree to Portmore, because she did not want me going downtown to take the bus to Portmore, which is the closer bus station, right? So she gave me enough lunch money to take 1, 2, 3 vehicles home. And I just came off the money at lunchtime and downtown. I go with my right. So I would walk from downtown past, I think it's Holy Trinity.
Right. There's Holy Trinity downtown.
Past Casey. Past George's. Past Kingston Technical. And of course, as we're passing, my entourage is building because, my friend from Holy Trinity, we're going to link up at a bus stop here, and then the man them from Casey, we're going to link up right at By the time we get downtown, it's a whole posse. It's a whole gang. And, some evenings we were going down there to find the boy or the girl who did this with friend at lunchtime, and it was chaos. So when I tell you I was an underperformer, that's really what I mean. I was wasting time and using the influence and smarts that I had to do things that weren't productive, weren't loving, did not advance anybody's chances of success around me. but then I would still be able to go home and in 10 minutes finish my homework.
Mm.
In 1 hour, study for a test tomorrow morning. So while I'm wasting time in the day at school and on the road in the evenings, when I get home, I pick up my book, do what I need to do, and I go in the next morning and I'm getting my A and my B plus on my test. But eventually the news got back to school, what I was doing on that journey to downtown Kingston in the evenings. And again, year group coordinator calls in my mother and says, we don't want to expel her because this is a bright girl. And the year group coordinator, Miss Clough, I'll never forget her. She was actually my literature teacher. And she was always so impressed at my language skills, my ability to write poetry, all of that. And she just could not conceive, like, why are you not doing the thing you're supposed to do? And she called my mommy and she said, have to move her because I have a responsibility too as a year group coordinator, and I can't keep her here doing what she's doing without punishing her. I don't want to suspend her, don't want to expel her. So my mom says, okay, we're going to leave Kingston altogether. We're going to bring you into a new environment where you don't know anybody. So you have to calm yourself down and settle in and get focused. And she said, we're going to Manchester.
Oh, no.
Margaret.
Wow.
I said, Mommy, you're going country.
Yeah.
She said, yeah. I vex. Shame. For town people. What you mean? How I must go country? It's
Yeah.
water down mommy. Yeah, slap me now. And we moved to Manchester. Registered me for Manchester High School. I did 4th and 5th form at Manchester High. Still had struggles in terms of discipline, but she was right. Moving me into a space where I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any influence automatically. I had to stop and relearn the space, relearn the culture, everything. And it really slowed down my ability to be distracted and also to distract other people. But eventually, I got back into my original rhythm and, forming my little group and clique and clan and skipping school to go and fight. And I think a lot of people don't imagine that I could be that kind of girl.
No, I can't see that.
Bring my change of clothes. And when my mother dropped me off in the morning, I head straight to the bathroom and I put on back the street clothes and then I go through the back gate and the security would say, but how are you leaving already? I said, no, mama, just come drop off something. I'm in their school. And she would let me out, but she kind of looked quizzical, like, well, why you never leave the front gate because the back gate far? But I'm in a uniform, so let me out. And again, by the end of 5th form, when we're approaching graduation, I was almost suspended. And if you get suspended in that final year of graduation, you don't get to graduate.
Yeah.
She just called in my mother again and, she talked them out of suspending me so close to graduation. I was able to graduate. Got all my subjects at CSEC. For one of the subjects, I got the highest in the island, which was for theater arts, because that's really good in the performing arts.
Okay.
1s and 2s for everything else. The only 3 I got was mathematics. And I am so grateful whoever marked my paper because I know that was a 4 or a 5 or ungraded. Deep down, I know I was supposed to fail math, but I got a 3. And I came back, applied for 6th form because on paper I was qualified. And the principal said, we can't accept you. We allowed you to graduate, but we're not going to allow you to come back and, do what you were doing, in terms of disrupting the space. And so that's why I ended up at my 4th high school. And in that moment, I was 16 years old and I said, all right, this has to stop because one, I'm embarrassing my mother. She is doing her absolute best to earn. She was driving from Manchester to Kingston every day, back and forth for work. And she's putting food on the table, roof overhead, clothes on back. She's not an abusive parent where, I have to skip school because I need to take care of my siblings or wash and cook and clean for everybody and, that kind of domestication and enslavement. I didn't have that to worry about. I had a very supportive parent who, whatever I needed to do, well, she provided it. And I was out in the streets embarrassing her and having people look at her as though she was doing something wrong while I was so terrible. And I said, all right, 6th form is my transformation year. And that's what I did. Chose to hang out with different people, chose to participate in different social activities, change the music I was listening to, started reading books, outside of my Nancy and Hardy Boys books, started reading other books across other disciplines, decided I wanted to pursue law. So I was taking up law in 6th form as well, debating, cheerleading, track and field. And that also helped me to stop wasting time after school because now I had a structured program to participate in. And that is how I eventually became focused. So
Mm.
that long answer is just to say I was always focused and disciplined. It's
Yeah.
something I had to choose
Okay.
in the latter teenage years.
Yeah, but it sounded as if you had some leadership skills already, although you were, I mean, you were leader of gang and all and all of that. So you had the skills from early, just that you weren't displaying it in the right way, I guess.
Absolutely. I say in jest that I was a misleader
A misleader.
and
Okay.
use the skill to mislead and derail, when really it could have been used to inspire and motivate others. And I
Hmm.
think that too is one of the reasons why I do much of what I do on my social media
Okay.
platforms, because I think I really wasted opportunities in high school
Hmm.
to support and strengthen other people. And I said, well, you know what? In this chapter of my life, I want it to be defined by the ability to
Positive.
prop others up and push
Hmm.
others forward.
Hmm. Okay. So you went to UE. What were some of the activities that you did there? Because I know you were very involved.
Ooh, UA, oh my goodness, I had so much fun at UA. So in the first year of university, I don't know if this is still the case, but we call it the freshers week or 2 week period where they orient you. And that's a rough process because you don't get to choose what you're participating in. They tell you you have to go and run ring road. Ring road competition is this day, and your leg them look long. You look slim.
Okay.
You look like you're gonna run it. So you're gonna do it. Get up in the morning and go train for ring road. And I'm like, I'm not really a long distance runner. But you don't. You better learn how to become a long distance runner because we're not losing. I said, okay. So I started more of the sporting activities, or committed more deeply
Oh,
to the sporting activities while I was at youth. So spine cricket, volleyball, netball, cheerleading, long distance running,
what?
the choir. I was on the Taylor Hall choir, the award winning Taylor
Okay.
Hall
Wow.
choir, the debating society,
I can see that.
dance. I
Mm-hmm.
did dance for a little bit, but not for very long.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then eventually played around with leadership roles as well. So while I was on my block, on block E, ran for a position on block E, didn't win, and then they encouraged. How did it go? I didn't win, but during the year of service, somebody resigned or moved off hall,
Oh,
and so I
okay.
ended up taking up the role. I think it was as the cultural entertainment affairs chairperson for the block, so organizing the
Mm-hmm.
different activities for entertainment. So I served on the block for a short period of time. Eventually ended up as part of the debating society for UA, the vice president of the society as well. Uh, on my hall, I didn't occupy any leadership positions in hall, but on the Guild of Students as the social sciences representative, faculty representative for a year, and then vice president on the Guild of Students for another year.
Mm-hmm.
So UA helped me again to zone in on where I could serve best.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first year, you were forced to touch a little bit of everything and to figure out what worked for you. And then by second and third year now, you're a little settled to know, well, no, I don't want to pursue this quiz team thing. I think debating is for me. And then you zone in on that. And it was through the debating society that I actually got the opportunity to travel for the first time in my life, go on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
And I say all the time to youth who are entering university, just be open.
Mm-hmm.
Be open to trying even the thing you think you're going to fail at, make an attempt.
Yeah.
University is your lab to experiment, to try, to learn, to fail, to start over, to switch directions and majors. You can just experiment at university. And it's because somebody looked at me and said, no man, you look like you could have go competing at a debate competition.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it when I was in sixth form, but I didn't think I was that good.
Mm-hmm.
And in my insecurity, I said,
Yeah.
okay, I will try, because part of you don't have a choice neither. When a senior tell you have to do it, you just kind of have to do it. And I did it. The debating team for the university actually adjudicated the match. They saw the potential in me, invited me to try out for the World Championships team. And again, I almost didn't do it. And the day when the auditions were to happen, I was planning on skipping the audition. somebody had actually given me the wrong date, but I was happy that they gave me the wrong date because I was, trying to convince myself like, but you're not going past anyway. And they called and they're like, "Crystal, where are you? We're about to start and we don't see you." And I was like, okay, I'm down at Union, which is the students' union. I'm down at Union, I'm going to come up now.
Yeah.
And I tried out, got selected for the team that year. The competitions were in Turkey. I didn't even have a passport. And I remember calling mommy and I was like, "Mommy, I'm on the team. I'm going to foreign. I'm going to foreign." "You're going to foreign and you don't have the passport?" I said, oh, yes, I need a passport. But I have time. I can get a passport. Didn't even have money. So it took a lot from my mother to find that. And I think at the time it was maybe like $7,000 or $8,000.
That's a lot.
But resources were so
Yeah,
limited,
that was a lot.
And she was able to find the 7,000 and send it up for me to go and apply for the passport. And I got the passport, and then it was visa time. You had to find another 12 or 13,000 for your visa application. And I think she called my uncle overseas, and he sent the money down for me to be able to apply for the visa. And I got the visa to travel. That time it would have been to go to the United Kingdom because the flight was going through the UK and then to Europe. And I took on the plane, and it was winter time, so I needed to borrow a coat from a friend because I don't have none of that, and boots and gloves. And I was so excited to be on a plane for the first time, to leave Jamaica for the first time, to touch snow for the first time, to see the world. Because in our mind, where we are is not part of the world.
No,
the world is where the white people are. And I was like, whoa, I'm gonna get to see the world, like the world I see on TV. And for the next 3 years, each December into January, I spent on a different continent. So in that first year, we left in December and went to Turkey, and then we returned in January. The following year, the competition was hosted in Botswana. So we went to Africa. So we spent Christmas time in Africa and returned to Jamaica in January. And then the third year was in the Philippines. So we went to Manila in the Philippines for Christmas time, and then came back in early January. And I look back at it now, even while it was happening, I was so, you say you're frightened for something, even while you're frightened. And I just could not believe that I was doing this. I was on a plane, I was going through immigration, I was giving people my boarding pass, and I didn't have to pay for it. The University of the West Indies paid for all of those trips. And in no other circumstance would I have been able to afford that. As you know, I couldn't afford easily the visa fees, much less the plane ticket and accommodation, to see the world. And I'm so grateful for UA to have opened those doors for me. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't choose any other university. I would be going back to the UWI for my first degree.
But so you won the public speaking championship in Botswana, right? Held there. But tell us about that experience, because I'm thinking that, boy, that could have been overwhelming to be competing against some of the best, from Yale or.
I mean, nerves take me because from the year before, when we're in Turkey, our debating coach, Mr. Carlton Lowry, he was trying to convince me to enter from that year. And again, because of those insecurities, I hid. My coach couldn't find me when it was time for the auditions. Me in the room, lock up, not answer the phone. When they finally found me, I told him I was sleeping, that I fell asleep. I was so exhausted.
You did a lot of hiding, man.
He knew that I was hiding, right? I think he knew that I was hiding. I was scared. And when we got back to Jamaica and we're training for the second year, they put it in my brain for like a whole year. Crystal, when we go to Botswana, you are entering the competition. And we had identified the 3 persons who would enter. It would have been myself, my debating partner at the time, Ricardo Brooks, and Tash Natoya Edwards, and I think Jared Brewster also. I think all 4 of us. All 4 of us had actually entered. So the goal was to make sure we came back with a trophy. And here's why. For years, the UWI had been funding that trip, but it was getting costly. They were trying to rationalize the budget. And so they were looking for programs to cut. And the Africa trip, we almost did not get to take that trip because they were saying, well, we can't afford to send enough. And one of the things that the director of student services, who was also our coach, Mr. Carlton Laurie, committed to the university administrators that if you send us, we are going to come back ranked in the public speaking competition. We're going to show you that there is value in sending us off every year on these big budgets. And so the entire team, the two teams, in fact, were prepared for the public speaking competition. We had to do it. We had to enter, because if we don't come back with something, they might cut the funding for this particular activity. So by the time I got to Botswana, I knew that we're going to enter. And we're trying to come at least in the top 3. We weren't really trying to win, but something, And I entered powered by the knowledge that, this was important if other teams are to get this experience and travel the world and participate. Let's just give it our best so we can come back with something to show that it's important to keep funding it. And after the first round, it went really well. People were, encouraging, and wow, she's really good, and she looked like she might win. And I'm like, maybe I was just in the round with the people who were very good. And so I wasn't talking myself at all. Went through the second round, same thing happened, and this time I was in there with good people. And I was like, oh, nice. And then by we got to the finals now, I'm on stage preparing to give my presentation, and my debating partner, Ricardo, had also made it into the finals. And so we're both there kind of, centering ourselves that the goal is to make it into the top something. If it's the top 5, the top 3, we just can't go home empty-handed. And I delivered with lots of nerves, lots of fear, lots of self-doubt. And I sat back down. At the end of the competition, people were saying, she's going to win it, she's going to win it. And I couldn't see it because I didn't feel that way. When I heard myself, I didn't feel like that was a winning presentation. When I heard others, I was like, no, man, and them are going to get it. That guy from Harvard, that guy from Yale, that guy from Cornell, they're going to get it. And then on the final night of the awards and so on, they announced, they didn't even call my name properly. I think they said, and the winner of the public speaking competition is, like they said, KRYSTAL Thomas or something like that.
Close.
But there was nobody else with a name close to that. But I was still nervous because, like, if it's not my name, I'm not getting up, and that's not my name. And my team is like, Crystal, it's you. It's like, but that's not my name. And they're like, get up, girl, it's you. And I went up and I accepted the award, and we got back to Jamaica. Headlines, interviews. You is happy. The person who was managing the budget, who had to approve or job or trip. So from the campus registrar to the why is the name slipping me? The name of the role is slipping me now.
It's
okay. But the person in charge of finances, they were also happy at the time, or principal or I can't remember the title now, but Gordon Shirley was actually the proper titles are really slipping from me now, but I'm going to say that university does not have a principal.
Right.
But Gordon Shirley, who had also gone out, Professor Gordon Shirley had gone out on a limb for us to say, no, man, give them a shot. They can do this. I think we had also managed to convince NCB Foundation to give us some funding as well. So when we came back with that title, everybody who believed in us just felt vindicated, like, yes,
totally
don't keep them in Jamaica. Send them and we were able to again secure funding for another year, which was the Manila year. And since then, each year we've been able to send that team. The UWI has been able to send that team. So I'm always very, very grateful when I hear another team is off for World's Championships. Another team is off. I'm like, yes, go. Even if we're not winning anything, the exposure is really incomparable.
Okay, so did that transition into you being in media?
Well, I actually started hosting the Nyaming show the summer before my first trip.
Okay.
So while it wasn't after I started debating that I entered media, it was in that same year when I was developing confidence in my voice. I had done well in theater, as I had mentioned, from high school. And one of my classmates in the theater arts program, Debbie, at the time she was on the Stewie Choice show. Her nickname on the show was Debbie Debs, and she would read, the entertainment news inside the show. So there was a producer who was starting a new show, and she just happened to be in the same space where he was talking about needing a host because the host he currently had, he was not going to go further with her. I don't know if she was withdrawing from the program or the details of it, but he had to change hosts, and he want to run some auditions, and if you know anybody, just tell them to come to the auditions. So she had messaged me on Facebook because we didn't have each other's contact. I didn't reply on Facebook. She called a mutual friend of ours who at the time had me on BBM, BlackBerry Messenger,
Yeah.
and sent me a ping
Yeah.
and told me that, go and check your Facebook message from Debbie because there's an audition coming up that she wanted to go to. So I went online, saw her message, made a note I'm going to go to the audition. And I went. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything. In that window, as I said, my experimenting window. Every little opportunity, I will just go try. Looking for somebody for a TV ad, and the person must have natural hair and be yay feet tall.
You're
and
there.
Here I come. I'm on the audition. So I went, I auditioned, and I got the role. And I remember the producer, David Graham, saying, "Did you see the script before?" I said, "No, I didn't." Because he had given me a 2-paragraph script. After 15 minutes, I told him I was ready. He said, "No, man, you have more time." I said, "No, man, I'm ready to go." And I gave him back the paper, and he said, "No, you can keep the paper. If you need to glance on it, that's fine."
Yeah.
No, I got it. And he was just looking at me like,
really?
Why should I memorize the line already? Anyway, turn on the camera. He was prepared for me to have to do like 3-4 times because there's no way she know the script already. And he gave back the script, and I looked to camera. I delivered it with my energy and a little bit of ad lib. So while I didn't go verbatim, all that he had in terms of the necessary information, bam, I delivered it on screen. And so when he turned off the camera, he said, "Did you see the script already?" I said, "No." And I'm like, "Lord God, I wonder if you're going to think that is Debbie sending the script because it's me and her friend." And I said, "It's the first time I've seen it, actually." And he was like, "Wow, I've never seen anybody do that." And so I got the role. Now, here's the disadvantage, Margaret. After that, they stopped write script, give me.
Okay.
They didn't give me a script.
So you had
they would just send me an email and say, "This is what the host name, the guest name, this is where we're going. And this is an interesting fact about the place." And then when I show up on set and he says, 3, 2, 1, action. I have a whole introduction and, my transitions and my segues and everything.
Yeah.
So I spoiled David for the last 10 years that I've been doing Nia Means. He has never, ever given me a script. No. Never. In fact, we have a running joke, right? When we get there and he's micing me, he says to me, "Chrissy, you read the script, right?" I said, "Yes, I read the script."
The one you wrote.
I read the script, baby. I read the script.
No.
So my journey into media has been pretty informal. Haven't had any training. As I said, don't have much scripting. It's just my energy and love for conversation and people and a genuine interest in what people have to say that allow us to flow so well on screen when we sit down to talk. So yeah.
No, but even Namins though, going back to that, I thought you had some experience or some training in foods or something like that because you got it pat.
There were some days and I was saying, "Baby, you can't tell me before the show what the meal is. So, maybe I can look up how people usually prepare it, what spices are usually in there, what I'm seeing from like a food channel in terms of what we're getting on set." And him saying, "No." He loves when the person says to me on camera, "Well, today we are doing corn meal with stew, pig's tail, and we're going to be doing a thinking toe punch."
What?
And I'm like, so he loves that authentic reaction of absolute shock when I hear the meal. But that also means I can't prepare a review.
Yeah.
So I really have to wait, watch what's happening, and wait until I actually taste it to be able to say anything about the meal. So, yeah, no script at all. The only part that is scripted is that feature. We have a Know About feature where we do some kind of historical lesson.
Right, yeah.
Maybe we were in a maroon town, maybe the name of the village was influenced by some war or something about the British being in Jamaica. So those he will research and write a script for that, and we deliver the segment as a pre-recording. But that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So how important is it to be your own cheerleader?
Well, I learned in my last 2 years at university the power of self-confidence, because that was the moment I was choosing not to be who I always was and be somebody else. And of course, the friends who knew and loved me for who I always was, they were kind of like, who is this new Crystal? Like, it's not going to fly.
Yeah.
What do you mean you want to like be host captain or cheerleading captain? Like, who's going to pick you? You want to be student council rep? What? Who's going to vote for you? You're going to debate? So they could not see me professionalizing myself.
Yeah.
And I had to speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And in the doing, of course, eventually people become convinced that, wow, she really changed.
Mm-hmm.
And even people who knew me in high school and weren't close to me to see those transitions, that they knew me from my other 3 high schools. When I met them at university and they saw me running for like guild, SOCI rep, faculty rep, they voted for me because they knew me. And that was the advantage, right? I got to UA, I had 4 different, graduating classes that were now at the UWI. And so
yes.
I had a lot of votes. Yeah, I had votes from Merle Grove, had my votes from Alpha, my Manchester High votes, my Carter College votes. So while those schools by themselves don't have like a huge alma mater, I had 4 alma maters together.
Right. I can imagine somebody might be saying from Alpha, boy, I know Crystal from Alpha, and somebody saying Alpha. She didn't go Alpha.
Yes. So I got a lot of those moments where people were on campus. So like I knew them from Merle Group.
Right.
I say, he used to go Chester, but me I tell him, say, no, I'm town.
Right.
No, man, I didn't move to Manchester for real. I said, come here, tell him, say, no, go stop. We didn't live more. I said, no, we didn't move for real. So in high school, that shift and that change, I had to first believe that I could do it and then attempt to. And in the moments when it felt uncomfortable, you really wanted to be rambunctious in the classroom and you're just like, no, I'm going to hold my tongue, not going to say anything. Somebody says something and you feel like it's this, them, this, you. And you just have to say, the old me would have run you down and try and pursue, some kind of argument, but not alone. Friends leaving school to go on the mall or something, and I'm like, no, I have to go debating. So the discomfort of changing and just believing that this kind of change was a good thing. And I couldn't see the outcomes immediately, but I just knew that what I was doing was not the right thing. And it's in those moments that I developed the self-confidence to do it, even when nobody else was believing that I could do it. And there were 3 teachers on my journey who I absolutely have to recognize. 3 teachers on my journey. When I was at Merle Grove High School, Mrs. Cheryl Minter Wildman, she was actually the drama teacher and my form captain in first form. She spoke powerfully over me, even when I was not doing the right and powerful thing. She always believed in me. It's one, those teachers who, when it's lunchtime, they especially ask for you to come to the staff room because they know if they leave you unattended for 45 minutes, you might get called up at the principal office. So it's one of those teachers that come have lunch with me, man. I want to talk to you about something. But it's really trouble she's trying to keep me out of. Come here, we need to help me mark some literature papers.
Yeah.
Come help me mark some English test
Yeah.
paper. So I am grateful for her. When I was at Manchester High, Mrs. Juliet Colai, also the head of the theatre arts program there, we had a section at Chester called the Top Hall, and that was where the stage was for the arts performances. And I would spend a lot of my lunchtime and after school hours inside Top Hall with her. And again, one of those teachers where if she don't see me, she sends somebody come look for me because she need to have me under supervision, Come, we're going to do a group dramatic exercise. Come, we're going to practice voice and speech. Come, here's a little impromptu skit. I want you guys to try this ad-lib scene. Oh, this is the word. So it was fun and it was engaging and it was entertaining, but I knew that they were also doing it to keep an eye on me.
Yeah.
And those were teachers who also defended me, like staff meetings, when discussions are happening about, no man, we can't have her representing the school at JCDC because she don't do this and she don't do that. And my drama teachers were always saying, come on, man, some children, we need the arts and the sports to help them get the discipline. And then the 3rd teacher was when I was at the Carteret College. She was in charge of our debating society, Miss Marsha Harvey. And again, when she not see me, when she can't hear from me, where is Crystal? Come and carry these books for me. Crystal, I know we're not participating in this competition this weekend, but I still wanted to practice by writing an argument for or against this motion. always keeping me busy,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we didn't have to have weekend trainings, she would organize the weekend training so that we would come in and just be focused on something,
Yeah.
reading this, researching that, presenting that, practicing that. And they helped me to develop that confidence in myself over the years. So by the time I got to a point where I knew I had to change, there were at least these three voices, you know,
Mm-hmm.
apart from my mother's voice, these three other voices of women, teachers who didn't have to believe in me, but they did believe in me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I recalled that even though I don't think I can, they've always said I could. So maybe they're onto something. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just stick to it a little bit longer. So I'm grateful for them for helping me to develop that internal sense of confidence and assuredness in my abilities.
Um, you've been the president of the PNPYO since 2018. Um,
Yes.
was yes was. Um, where did that interest in politics start?
Well, it started when I was at UA. So having run to join the guild as social sciences representative, you get exposed to the campaigning, the strategizing, service, learning
Mm-hmm.
how to pull different people in to get work done as a sort of community organizer, budgeting for impact. So my vice president role when I was on the guild was services and special projects, which meant that we had to look for ways to offer welfare support, offset the cost of books, tuition, etc for our students. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed haggling inside our annual budget meeting for more money. Instead of giving it to the CEAC to keep integration, give me an extra 500,000 so I can do it. I enjoyed that, process of
Okay.
fighting
Yeah, man.
for the money, for the people.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever you got, being creative and finding partnerships to extend the impact of the work and then seeing how it transformed the lives of the students. I
Mm-hmm.
really did enjoy that. I remember the first time the guild actually delivered a scholarship. I said to the president of the guild at the time, I'm not going to break up the money to give 500 people $500 or
Mm-hmm.
$5,000. I'm going to give 300 people X amount, and then I'm going to take 150,000 and award to a single student who could clear their entire balance with that
Okay.
money.
Mm-hmm.
And so we opened it up for scholarship, and there was a gentleman who applied, and you had to have some reference coming in from either your hall chairman, your student services manager in hall, teachers, somebody from the finance section of UA, the Office of Student Financing. Somebody had to verify that your need is genuine, but also that you are a hard working student.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in need because you wasted the money that mommy sent, but you're actually struggling and still serving, leading, showing up, doing your work. And we found a student that we were able to award that first. I don't think it's ever been repeated,
Mm-hmm.
but the first scholarship that cleared their entire balance heading into examinations. And to this day,
Mm-hmm.
he'll message me on Instagram or Facebook, wherever he finds me, to just say,
Just
hey, I
say.
just joined this
Mm-hmm.
platform and I said you're on here, so I just want you to know I'm here and I don't forget what you did for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he has gone on to really make good use of that opportunity, because a lot of students have had to drop out of school
Mm-hmm.
because they simply couldn't pay the money. And when you go on the leave of absence, you don't come back because you
Mm-hmm.
start to work and then you start to pay bills and you just forget about the degree. So
Mm.
I'm happy that I was able to do that. And then eventually, the political parties start to notice you because, they have their little surrogates on the
Right.
campus
Yes. Yes.
looking for who the next person is, and they must come join our party. So I remember being treated by both political parties. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
the JLP at the time, Floyd Green, was
Okay.
he was on campus, but not as a student. But he used
Mm-hmm.
to be the CEAC, a chancellor, right? So they come back from time to time on campus. He was
Mm-hmm.
a lawyer by then, and just engaging people on the campus. And somebody say, no, but a girl, like, you never. And we ended up talking, meeting, discussing the politics. He was G2K president at the time as well. And then also Damian Crawford, who I'm a
Okay.
Taylorite, and every
Oh.
Taylorite know Bo Crawford. He was our hall chair. He ended up being guild president, notorious and infamous for the guild president who locked up the bursa, the campus
Oh,
bursa. That's the
yes.
title I'm trying to remember. Locked up the campus bursa and held them hostage in negotiation. I don't remember what the issue was, but he was just a legendary
Oh.
hall chair and guild president, and then YO president. Eventually, the candidate and MP for East Rural St. Andrew. So I was able to see, the best of both worlds from
Okay.
those two gentlemen who I found to just be good people, even though I'm not a member or a supporter of the Jamaica Labour Party in politics. I'll tell everybody that there are some people in the JLP who I continue to admire and believe in their ability to really serve and lead Jamaica if ever that moment should come. And Floyd Green is one of them. And I had the occasion to just meet with more and more people, and chose, based on my philosophy, the People's National Party. And then from there, the friendships and the relationships grew. You got to understand a little bit more about the politics. And so when the 2018 phone call came, it was actually Basil Waite who called me. And Basil was one of them who, when I was on campus, was like, you're not coming to, you don't want to join the YO. Okay, you don't want to be on this committee. You don't want to and Taz, Ricardo James, he was GenSec for the YO while I was on campus too. Basil called me and he said, listen, I'm Deputy General Secretary of the PNP. At this point, the YO is in receivership and we have the task of designing and appointing a new executive. And we have trust issues in the YO. Everybody has an agenda, and so they can't bring people to the table. And we think that you are sufficiently removed from the cascas, as they call it, for people to know that you're not coming in to take a side and to victimize them. So would you consider the role of president? And it took me a little while because I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Eventually I said yes. And from 2018 up to last week, I was the president of the youth organization.
Politics, there's a stigma attached. Like persons will say, why politician, them, the whole of them are the same thing. That they're corrupt and all of that. Why didn't this deter you from wanting to be involved?
Well, it took me a lot of time to come to the decision because Basil had actually been asking me for maybe 2 years now. So when I saw him calling, I was like, no, Basil asked me the same question. But I think by that time he had really worn me down with his persistence. But also I was looking for another way to serve in a national capacity. So by the time he called, I was more amenable to the idea and a little clearer, though not fully, on how that portfolio could allow me to serve more and have greater impact with our team of young people. So I was hesitant about the implication, and even today, I'm still suffering blows from the kind of perspective we have of politics and politicians, where, you want to do business with certain companies and they're kind of, but I don't want anybody to think that we are PNP, It's been an interesting journey trying to balance my professional activities with the political life and to continue to inspire the confidence of corporate companies that, I'm not coming in there to recruit and to campaign. And whenever I get the requests from corporates, I'm always humbled because it means that there's somebody in the room who saw my value beyond politics, who saw my influence and impact and my personhood beyond the politics. They did not allow one thing to define my entire being and what I could contribute. And I'm always very grateful whenever those invitations present themselves. I especially love when an HR manager will say, we asked our team who they would want to come in and do this training, and they provided 3 options, but overwhelmingly, the staff members say they want to hear from you. And I say, nice. Loving this team of staff members here. Because it has been a delicate and unstable journey since I've entered politics, kind of managing personal life, professional endeavors, my time, and the things I would want to invest more of the time in with the political expectations. But it has been fulfilling. I've had the honor of serving with young people who were able to get real work done in the 3 years. I remember in our first year, us being able to launch after the first year our scholarship program. And we were able to offer 50 scholarships for students to study at the International University of the Caribbean. And that came from one of our exec members, Akeem Dobson, who was also a student of the school, seeing the opportunity, asking me what I thought about it. Could I write the letter for him? Would I be willing to come into the meeting and, just convince the principal that was serious? And then also using the press to let people know that this was available, opening up my platform as well to share some of the work of the YO and get more young people interested, at least in applying for the scholarship. So at the end of this year, we should graduate our final cohort of students who had actually received those scholarships. So students now have degrees because of advocacy from the YO. We were able to raise about 200,000 in donations for the Sickle Cell Foundation of Jamaica. In the last couple of months, fundraising to provide tablets and connectivity devices for our members who are out of school because they can't afford the device, or their work situation has been compromised because they just can't buy the device. So just being able to negotiate and do that kind of fundraising, seeing our members offer scholarships in China, traveling to Venezuela and China to just expose themselves through workshops and other activities. I am just humbled to have been part of the process of making that happen. And the cost, I think, is not sufficient. Whatever it is I had to pay in terms of reputational blows, I think the benefits outweigh those costs. And I would not have had it any other way.